So, you want to buy a commercial satellite.
Saturn I stands on its pad at Cape Kennedy, poised to send Pegasus 2 into orbit. The world's most powerful rocket lights up the landscape as it generates its 1.5 million pounds of thrust.
Most people think owning a satellite costs hundreds of millions of dollars. That's not entirely true. In fact, you can buy a real satellite for less than the price of a new luxury car. Of course, that's only the satellite. Getting it into space is where the numbers start increasing dramatically. So, you have the money for it, but the process itself might seem complicated to you. Just like with your watch collection, buying a commercial satellite comes with a price list. There are 5 main types of commercial satellites on the market, and the difference between them lies not only in price, but also in where exactly you plan to launch. The cheapest option is a CubeSat. It's a miniature satellite, roughly the size of your luxury shoebox, built out of standardized 10-centimeter cubes. It operates at altitudes of up to 2,000 kilometers in what's called low Earth orbit. The price ranges from about $50,000 to $150,000 to build, plus another $80,000 to $240,000 to launch. It's cheap and reliable, but limited to short missions. Unfortunately, its lifespan is about 1 to 5 years until it burns into ashes from atmospheric re-entry. But let's leave that for the budget conscious, since we want a satellite that can actually do something useful, and for that we'll need a small satellite, sometimes called a microsat. This is a 10 to 100 kilogram satellite that can carry real sensors. You can do Earth observation, maritime tracking, or weather data collection on this satellite. It operates at similar altitudes but with more capability and costs around $1 to $3 million to build and launch. You don't buy one of these. You buy a constellation, 10, 50 to 100 of them working together. If you want to go even bigger and operate with radar that sees through clouds or high-resolution optical sensors, then I recommend you look into a medium satellite. Essentially, it's a 100 to 500 kilogram satellite with serious hardware. You can use it for synthetic aperture radar imaging or advanced communications. It operates at altitudes where the previous 2 types can't match its capability. One of these costs around $10 to $50 million to build, plus another $7.5 to $30 million to launch. Well, if you're already a billionaire and the previous options are too simple for you, then here's the top segment for you: the Large GEO Communications Satellite. The acronym stands for Geostationary Orbit, but it's easier to say that it's the satellite that sits 35,786 kilometers above the equator and covers an entire continent. You can use it for television broadcasting, broadband internet, or military communications. It not only beams signals, but also handles massive data throughput right from that fixed position. The price tag is roughly $200 to $500 million to manufacture, plus $60 to $110 million to launch. It operates for about 15 years before it's moved to the graveyard orbit. There's also a separate category, but you probably won't be able to buy it even if you had the money. These are high-throughput satellites, the top-tier broadband platforms. They're built for pure bandwidth, with massive reflectors and advanced spot beam technology that can deliver terabits of data per second. For example, the ViaSat-3 that costs roughly $700 million all in and promised a full terabit per second of capacity. The satellite was built by Boeing with a reflector from Northrop Grumman, one of the largest commercial reflectors ever flown. These satellites represent the pinnacle of commercial satellite technology, but they're also the riskiest bet you can make in this industry. A single deployment failure on a satellite of this scale doesn't just cost you the hardware, it can wipe out billions in market value in a single day. Now you've seen the menu, but knowing what something costs and actually getting your hands on it are 2 very different conversations. Before you can even think about launching, you need permissions from 4 separate regulatory bodies in the United States alone. The Federal Communications Commission licenses your transmission. The Federal Aviation Administration licenses the launch. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration licenses your imaging if your satellite takes pictures of Earth. And the International Telecommunication Union coordinates your orbital slot and spectrum rights internationally. For a GEO satellite, the orbital slot alone can take years to secure through the ITU process. Total regulatory spend for a startup, $200,000 to $2 million. Export controls under ITAR stands for International Traffic in Arms Regulations, which restrict sharing sensitive satellite technology with foreign partners, add another layer of legal complexity. Money alone doesn't get you into this business. Once you've cleared the regulatory hurdles, you have 3 ways to actually acquire a satellite. You can build new, order it from Boeing, Airbus, or Thales Alenia Space. Wait 3 to 5 years. Write checks the entire time. This is the slowest and most expensive route. Or you can buy second-hand from an existing operator. If we look for a recent purchase, in July 2024, a private investor acquired a used GEO satellite from a major operator for approximately $80 million, a fraction of its $300 million replacement cost. Says Intelsat, ViaSat, and Eutelsat all sell off assets when they restructure their fleets. This is faster and cheaper. Or you can buy distressed. This is where the real bargains live. When Iridium went bankrupt in 1999, its 66 satellite constellation, which cost $5 billion to build, sold for $25 million, half a cent on the dollar. But here's the catch that makes a discounted satellite potentially more expensive than a new one. Once you own that satellite, it starts burning money the moment you take possession. For a large GEO satellite, the annual cost just to exist is $25 to $35 million. Zero revenue, zero customers, zero signal being sold. Let's break down where that money goes. Insurance alone runs 2 to 5% of the satellite's value every year. On a $300 million satellite, that's $6 to $15 million annually, whether the satellite works or not. Your ground station needs a staff monitoring it 24 hours a day. That's $1 to $3 million a year in operations. You need 15 to 20 engineers minimum just to run one satellite around the clock. Senior satellite engineers earn $150,000 to $400,000 a year each. So staffing alone, roughly $3 to $8 million annually. Regulatory compliance with the FCC, the ITU, and ongoing reporting adds another $500,000 to $2 million. And since a Russian cyber attack disabled a commercial satellite network an hour before troops crossed into Ukraine, cybersecurity is now a mandatory line item. Add it all up. Insurance, $6 to $15 million. Staffing, $3 to $8 million. Ground operations, $1 to $3 million. Compliance, $0.5 to $2 million. Cybersecurity and other expenses, the remainder. That's how you reach $25 to $35 million a year just to exist. So we've covered the costs and permits. Now let's take a look at how you can actually make money from all of this. It's important to know that airlines don't own the satellites they use for in-flight Wi-Fi. Neither does the military. Telecom companies, broadcasters, none of them own their own satellites. The world's largest satellite users simply lease capacity. There are 2 distinct sectors in this business. The first consists of those who own the satellites. They're called satellite operators. Says Intelsat, ViaSat, Eutelsat. They build, buy, maintain, and lease them out. The second consists of end users such as airlines, broadcasters, and ISPs. They deal exclusively in connectivity. They don't need to shoulder $30 million a year for every satellite they use. They simply lease capacity for the duration of the project. And this brings us to how you, dear new satellite owner, will calculate your profit. Your satellite starts making money the moment you sign a contract with a company like an airline or a broadcaster. You lease out the bandwidth and the customer pays you a fixed amount for every megahertz of spectrum they use. How much is that? Right now in 2025 to 2026, top-tier GEO satellite capacity costs roughly $2,000 per megahertz per month. That means over the course of a one-year contract, your satellite brings in about $30 to $50 million. Not bad, right? But here you need to know that this pricing is a sort of health indicator for the entire industry, and it fluctuates like a cardiogram during a heart attack. But that's not the only way money moves through this industry. Earth observation satellites have become the backbone of parametric insurance policies that pay out automatically when a satellite measures a flood depth or drought index crossing a threshold. In October 2025, the government of Mozambique received $5.4 million within days of a drought, with no adjuster ever setting foot on the ground. That $5.4 million came directly from satellite-verified data. In 2003, C-band capacity cost roughly $3,500 per megahertz per month. In 2008, a full transponder was fetching $150,000 to $210,000 per month. In 2015, prices had dropped to $3,000 to $4,000 per megahertz. By 2019, high-throughput capacity was being priced at well under $50 per megabit per second per month. Today, traditional GEO sits around $2,000 per megahertz. What does this mean for you? The trend is clear prices have been in decline for over a decade. A contract signed in 2008 for 15 years could have earned you a fortune. A contract signed just a few years later could have bankrupted you. The structural pressure driving prices down is Starlink and Amazon Kuiper flooding low Earth orbit with nearly unlimited broadband capacity at mass production unit costs. Traditional GEO operators who built billion-dollar satellites in 2010 are now competing with constellations that cost $100,000 per satellite to build. This is the first real threat to the business model. It's not just a historical price trend, it's a permanent structural change. Every new LEO constellation that launches adds more capacity to the market, and that capacity is being built at a fraction of the cost of a traditional GEO satellite. No matter how well your satellite performs, it's competing against an army of cheaper, newer hardware that didn't exist a decade ago. This is where a real person enters the story. Meet Greg Wyler. In 2003, Wyler went to Rwanda and connected over 200 schools to the internet. In 2007, he founded O3B Networks, raised $1.3 billion from Google, HSBC, and SES, and put 12 satellites into medium orbit. It worked. SES bought the company outright in 2016 for $730 million. In 2012, he founded OneWeb. 648 satellites to blanket the globe. He raised $500 million from Airbus, Virgin, Qualcomm, and Coca-Cola. He built the satellites. He launched them. Wyler left the company in 2017. In March 2020, OneWeb filed for bankruptcy with 74 satellites already in orbit and $5 billion already spent. The UK government and Bharti Global bought it out of bankruptcy for $1 billion. Wyler started a new company in 2021. He told interviewers the technology was never the problem. The capital required was so large it kept shrinking the pool of people willing to fund it. As I told you in the start, there is no guarantee your investment makes you back, because it only works if the hardware works. And once that satellite leaves the ground, there is no second chance to fix it. On April 30th, 2023, ViaSat launched ViaSat-3 Americas aboard a SpaceX Falcon Heavy. 2 months after launch, during final deployment, the main reflector antenna failed to fully open. On July 12, 2023, ViaSat disclosed the problem after the market closed. By the next morning, the stock had dropped 28.5%, a loss of $1.8 billion in market cap in a single day. The satellite was insured for $421 million against a build cost of roughly $700 million. Nearly $280 million simply disappeared. And then there's the slower collapse. Eutelsat, the French satellite operator, merged with OneWeb in 2023, creating a hybrid GEO-LEO operator. The deal was meant to combine the stability of GEO with the growth of LEO. Instead, Eutelsat stock has declined 59% since the merger closed in September 2023. Falling from approximately 8.50 to 3.50. The company's market capitalization dropped from roughly 3.5 billion to under 1.5 billion. The problem isn't a single hardware failure, it's that the combined business model hasn't delivered the growth investors expected. And the debt from the merger has become a heavier burden than the revenue it generates. When a GEO satellite runs out of fuel, its last job is to push itself about 300 kilometers higher into a disposal orbit where it will sit for millions of years. Over 300 dead satellites are parked there right now, completely intact. Now let's confirm what you actually earn realistically. At the small end, a CubeSat mission runs $500,000 to $1.5 million all in. Realistic revenue from a niche data contract is $50,000 to $200,000 a year. This isn't a business, it's a demo. At the middle tier, a 20-satellite Earth observation constellation costs $50 to $300 million to build and launch. Once operational, realistic revenue runs $30 to $80 million a year, with losses for the first 5 to 7 years. Planet Labs took 12 years and hundreds of millions in outside funding to post its first profitable quarter. In the good case, a government defense contract anchors your revenue. In the bad case, that same government customer delays procurement and you run out of runway. At the top, a single GEO communications satellite costs $300 to $700 million. Fully leased, it can generate $30 to $50 million a year in revenue. After insurance, staff, ground operations, and debt service $25 to $40 million a year, you're left with $5 to $15 million in net profit annually. Payback period, 20 to 40 years, assuming leasing prices don't keep falling, which they have been for 15 years straight, and assuming the reflector opens. The satellite business rewards patience more than any other industry you could buy into. Everything about it is designed to make you wait. And the one thing it never waits for is your money.